In the fall of 2008, the global economy was in free fall. Credit markets froze, legacy banks collapsed, and trillions of dollars in wealth evaporated from the markets almost overnight. Against this backdrop of global panic, Elon Musk faced total personal ruin. He had made millions selling PayPal years earlier. Payday shift into wealth preservation mode. Musk did the opposite. He poured every cent of his internet fortune into two of the hardest, most capital-intensive industries on Earth. This choice revealed a mind driven by intellectual conviction over financial safety. Both of those new ventures were collapsing simultaneously. SpaceX had incinerated $100 million across 3 consecutive rocket explosions. Meanwhile, Tesla was bleeding cash trying to produce the Roadster, pushing the automaker to the brink of bankruptcy. Musk looked at his remaining capital. He had just enough cash left to fund exactly one more flight. If the 4th launch failed, SpaceX would fold, and Tesla would inevitably follow. Standing on that cliff edge was the direct result of a radical problem-solving methodology called first principles thinking. It's a cognitive framework that breaks complex problems down into their absolute, undeniable physical truths. To understand why a man would wager his entire existence on a 4th rocket launch, we have to look at the raw, foundational math that originally convinced him to start. In 2001, Musk flew to Russia to buy refurbished intercontinental ballistic missiles for a space project. The Russians didn't take him seriously, quoting $21 million for a single rocket. Musk walked away. On the flight home, he opened his laptop and applied first principles. He conceptually disassembled a rocket into its raw materials: aluminum, titanium, copper, and carbon fiber. These materials accounted for just 2 to 3% of a rocket's price tag. Third-party markups and bureaucracy accounted for 97%, burying the actual cost. His solution was vertical integration. Instead of buying components from a long chain of contractors, SpaceX would manufacture nearly every part of the rocket in-house. By reducing space travel to its absolute physical limits, he proved to the world that affordable rockets were possible. The true barrier was simply organizational inefficiency. He applied that exact same razor to the automotive industry. For decades, the established rule dictated that electric cars had to rely on heavy lead-acid batteries, which restricted them to being slow, low-range vehicles. Comparing battery chemistries, lead-acid cells have severely limited energy density. But consumer electronics used much lighter, energy-dense lithium-ion batteries. The math was clear. Wiring thousands of these small cells together would generate enough power to propel a high-performance sports car, bypassing the bottleneck. This became the foundational architecture for the early Tesla battery pack. It was a physical manifestation of an equation that the legacy automakers had ignored. Stripping a car down to the fundamental physics of energy storage proved that an electric vehicle could outperform a gasoline engine, upending the entire global automotive industry forever. Which brings us back to the reality of late 2008. The engineering teams were struggling to execute, but Musk's first principles analysis assured him that his foundational math remained solid. To keep the companies breathing, he liquidated his personal assets, right down to selling his prized McLaren sports car. He took his last few $1 million and split them down the middle, allocating just enough to keep SpaceX and Tesla alive for a few more weeks. This analysis reduced the crisis to a pure mathematical probability, allowing Musk to ignore the emotional weight of public ridicule. He was willing to bet everything he had left on the outcome of that math. In September 2008, the 4th Falcon 9 rocket sat on the launch pad in the Pacific. The survival of 2 companies and an entire philosophical worldview hinged on this single ignition. The vehicle lifted off the pad. It survived the intense aerodynamic pressure of Max Q. The first stage successfully separated, avoiding the technical errors that had destroyed the previous 3 test flights. Confirmation came through. Falcon 9 reached orbit. It became the first privately funded liquid-fueled rocket to do so, proving the first principles aerospace model in the real world. Relieved, steady tone. The validation was immediate. Just days after the successful flight, NASA awarded SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract to run cargo supply missions to the International Space Station. The momentum bled over to his automotive wager. On Christmas Eve, Musk secured $40 million in emergency investor funding for Tesla, saving the car company hours before it would have faced bankruptcy. Those final weeks of 2008 validated the grueling process of taking a first principles hypothesis and forcing it to work in the real world. Compare that desperate survival to the reality of today. SpaceX routinely lands massive reusable orbital rockets, and Tesla has driven a trillion-dollar global transition toward electric vehicles. First principles is more than a brainstorming tool. It is a cognitive shield. When you know your foundational math is correct, it protects you against extreme pressure and public doubt. Understanding the fundamental truths of reality is the only way to rewrite the rules of what is possible.